that I wasn't at all sure it would be possible for me to join you at this year's convention. In November, I was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. And in December, I was diagnosed with a genetic cancer syndrome, a mutation in my BRCA2 gene. I've gone through 2 major surgeries since then, the most recent of which was 8 days ago. So if my voice is a little scratchy, it's literally because of the breathing tube. Please don't tell my surgeon I'm here. It's been quite a journey. But I'm sure that every single person in this room has loved someone or has personally experienced a life-changing illness or some other traumatic life event. Suffering and grief are part of life. But as Helen Keller wrote, life is also full of overcoming, of healing. Our individual stories are unique, but there is common ground in our overcoming. So I thought it might be helpful to invite you into some of the things I have been learning this year about what it means to heal. Now, the word heal seems to be everywhere these days, right? Especially in the natural wellness space. And here's the thing, when words are overused, they can start to mean nothing at all, right? So I'd like to start by getting academic, a little bit nerdy. I promise it won't be too painful. But let's start by looking at semantics, the meaning of words. What does the word healing actually mean? So, because this is how I roll, I decided to pull out some dictionaries. And this is what I found. To heal is to cause an undesirable condition to be overcome. Is that word overcome again? To mend. To make free from injury or disease, to make sound or whole. The process in which a bad situation or painful emotion ends or improves. And the process of becoming well again, or of making someone well again. Now, I'm a list maker. I like to make lists. And so when I applied these definitions to my own situation, this is the list I came up with. So number 1, starting with the basics, right? Remove the cancer. Number 2, recover from the surgery physically. So pain, scars, recovering my strength and flexibility. But there's also a different kind of recovery, right? And that's emotional and spiritual, the impact of a cancer diagnosis. And also the emotional impact of surgery itself, the trauma, how that affects your body image. Now, a genetic diagnosis, that kind of messes with your mind too, right? Because that's not something you can see, it's not something you can feel or touch. It's something that gets given to you on a piece of paper from a blood test. So there was a lot that I needed to let percolate from that as well. I needed to reflect on future cancer risk. That's part of a BRCA2 mutation, and to think about preventative steps. Huge implications for your family when you've got a genetic diagnosis. So this is something that was unknown to my family, that we had this gene running through us. So you look back at your family tree, your ancestry, with completely different eyes, right? It shed a totally different light on our family story. And of course, I have family members in the present that this affects. And you think ahead to your children and grandchildren. It's huge. And then with any kind of cancer diagnosis, you end up analyzing your life, your goals, your values. And then I added something that's really not from the dictionary, but I think it's still important to my recovery process, is not to be an annoying person who talks about their health all the time, which I'm kind of failing at today, so I would appreciate a little grace. But after I created this list, I realized that my doctors only addressed the first 2 things on the list. I was offered no emotional or spiritual support. No one even suggested counseling or a support group or anything that I could do for myself and by myself to heal. doctors out there who practice a much more holistic kind of medicine. And you'll be hearing about how doTERRA is changing healthcare through its Prime Meridian clinics. But for most of us, when it comes to emotional and spiritual healing, we're on our own, right? And what's crazy about this from a medical perspective is that we know that emotional well-being is incredibly relevant to our physical health. We don't have time to go into all the research in detail, but I'll touch on a few of the studies that are helpful examples, I think, at illustrating the link between our feelings and our health. So Dr. Gabor Mate, who's someone to look up if you're not familiar with his work. He's Hungarian but practicing now in the United States as a family physician, and he's done a lot of fascinating work at childhood trauma and how that affects a person's future risk of physical disease in adulthood. And he has some incredible podcasts that will blow your mind. Lots of studies have now shown that high levels of stress are linked to all sorts of chronic disease, right? This isn't probably big news to anyone in this room. Really interesting little study from Finland about helplessness showed that people who feel helpless about their lives are 3 times more likely to die than people who feel empowered. Cancer patient support groups, there's a number of studies that have suggested that they improve not just your quality of life if you're living with cancer, but they might actually improve the quantity of life, improve your survival. And in one of the biggest observational health studies in the United States, the Nurses' Health Study has shown that loneliness is as dangerous as smoking. Now, it's important to understand that correlation is not the same thing as causation. So these studies aren't proving that emotions are the cause of disease. But what is becoming clear is that emotions can make our bodies more or less able to heal from disease. And the first thing that became crystal clear to me was that in order to tend to my emotional well-being, I needed to be way more intentional about my time. Now, this cartoon is a pretty good illustration of how my life felt before my cancer diagnosis, and I'm willing to bet I'm not the only person in this room who has felt this way. We only have so many hours in a day. And in order to say yes to the things that really matter, we've got to get better at saying no to the things that don't. Now, it shouldn't take a cancer diagnosis for us to give ourselves permission to spend our days wisely. My good friend Rochelle Hubbard and I were talking about Marie Kondo a few months ago. Just a few months before my diagnosis, I read her book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And when I was talking to Rochelle, we were sort of joking about how actually we could apply the Marie Kondo method not just to our houses, right, to our homes. We can really Marie Kondo our whole entire lives. And in order for this to be effortless, we need to be clear on what our priorities actually are. Now, some of this discernment happens up here with our thinking, but what Marie Kondo is teaching the world is really that most of this discernment happens here and here. And I found essential oils really helpful when I need to listen to my intuition and help me set my boundaries with confidence. For this practice, my key teachers are oils with strong, uncompromising aromas. I tend to use these oils alone, not blended, so that their qualities really shine through. These oils bring me clarity as well as courage. Rosemary, eucalyptus, melissa, lime, and clary sage. My emotional healing work has been tackling fear. Hospitals are scary places. I didn't used to feel that way when I worked in them, but I've experienced a lot of fear as a patient. The worst case scenario seems to dominate my thinking after every single appointment. And for me, the best antidote to fear is Mother Nature. I now make it a daily practice, rain or shine, remember I live in England, to take myself outdoors. The Japanese call this practice shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. In terms of the specific benefits, scientific studies are confirming that forest bathing can reduce our blood pressure, lower our stress hormones, improve sleep, enhance immune function, lift our mood if it's low, and improve memory and concentration. This is ancient wisdom we are calling upon, right? When we're out in the woods, we are engaging all of our senses. The sight of the trees, the sound of the birds, the feel of the wind and the sun, the rain, on our skin. We end up feeling more connected to the cycle of birth and death that is far greater than our own tiny, precious existence. And I bet you're not surprised to learn that aroma plays a key role in forest bathing too. Abundance of essential oils that can boost our well-being. Now you'll see the term phytoncide used a lot in the media when doctors and scientists are talking about the beneficial properties of these compounds. But I want you to understand something here. Phytoncides, it just means essential oils. They are exactly the same thing. Phytoncides aren't a category of essential oils, they are essential oils. But it makes doctors feel less woo-woo if they say things in Latin. So that's why they say the word phytoncide. So key constituents that are present in tree oils include alpha and beta pinene, 1,8-cineol, which is also sometimes called eucalyptol, limonene, or limonene if you're American, and gamma-terpenine. So when I feel fearful, I reach for essential oils that reminds me of the peace I experience when I'm out in the woods. These oils are deeply calming, and they help restore me to a place of peace and hope and positivity. So my key teachers for this are Douglas fir, forgive, cypress, juniper berry, and green mandarin. Yes, it's a citrus, but it's very high in gamma-terpenine. It's quite unusual. And it's no wonder, really, that people feel fearful in hospitals, right? Medical treatment, particularly surgery, is traumatic. The skilled surgeons who do this work, but really, major surgery is a kind of violation. And then to heal from this kind of surgery, we have to acknowledge that the wounds are more than just skin deep. It's so easy to become disconnected from our bodies, right? For most of us in our everyday life, our minds are go, 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 but we're mostly sedentary. Our bodies just sit there. And when we do bring conscious awareness of our bodies, to be honest, we're mostly judging how we look, right? How's my hair look today? How about my buttonless jeans? Right? Can they see my wrinkles? This is how we talk to ourselves about our bodies. Fashion and culture and the media are powerful external influences on how we feel about our bodies. If we don't have a strong internal story, we're left very vulnerable when a crisis like breast cancer comes along. And in order to make decisions about my particular surgery and to heal from that surgery, I needed to talk and listen to my body. Sounds really woo-woo, but I needed to feel into my decisions and not just think about them. To connect with your body, my friend Henrietta, who's a presidential diamond in Norway, she posts on Instagram her daily, insane cold water immersion practice in the freezing cold Norwegian Ocean. Earlier this week, she did a video while she was walking into the ocean. I was sticking up to her neck, and she was talking about how she was like, yes, it really is very cold indeed. But then she said something that just struck me, and she said, I can feel every cell in my body. And I just thought, yes, that is exactly the kind of awareness that we can all benefit from. And the good news is, you don't have to swim in a freezing ocean to do this. Although I'm definitely giving it a try. Maybe next year. You can find practices that work for you. And if you make it something you do on a daily basis, I'm willing to bet you'll feel calmer, more centered, and more intuitive. So, practices that I have been using, just as an example. Yoga. So I've practiced yoga for about 20 years, but when I say practice yoga, what I mean is I do like a really intense 90-minute yoga class about once a year. I always approach yoga this way. And surprise, surprise, it turns out that 5 minutes every single day is way more effective. So I started off with just 5 minutes from an online yoga glow, often Elena Brower, yoga class, and I've sort of gradually increased it, and sure enough, 20 minutes seems to be about the sweet spot for me right now. Meditation. Now, I've used this as a very broad category, and this includes walking meditation, sitting meditation, prayer, breath work. These are all practices that will help you quiet your mind, right? That's what my mind does. Quiet the mind and help you listen more to your body. Journaling. I've started journaling. It turns out that using a pencil is a great way to communicate with your body. Now, if you're less of a writer and more of an artist, you can try drawing or painting. My friend Nat Lehman pointed out to me, I don't know, probably many of you have Desiree Megan Dogg's amazing emotions books, but I never realized you could color those in. Did you guys know that? You probably knew that. You can use coloring pencils and use that as a coloring activity. Again, that's mindfulness. That's going to bring you into the present. And then touch. So massaging your body, right? Lovingly touching your body in a way that is appreciative and affirming it as it is, not as you want it to be. Vanessa Jean, if you're not familiar with her videos on what she calls aromatic dressing, that's definitely something to YouTube as a daily practice. And as always, essential oils are very powerful teachers in this process of connecting with the body and with your emotions. These are a few of the oils that have been powerful for me. So rose, incredibly sweet and feminine. Rose is also great if you are carrying any guilt in your body that you need to release. Rose over the heart. Geranium, you've heard about my geranium story. I love geranium in bath oils and in massage. It's really calming and grounding. Frankincense. Frankincense is the king of oils, and particularly for any meditation practice or yoga nidra, it really helps quiet the mind and center you. Grapefruit is an amazing oil, particularly for anyone who struggles with their body image a little bit. So you can use grapefruit as part of aromatic dressing or self-massage, but it's also great to drink in your water throughout your day, and it acts as a little trigger to tell yourself a more positive story. And then finally, Anchor has become my personal favorite among the yoga blends. Probably because it is the most grounding, and I love it at bedtime as well. But I hope you can come up with your own list of the oils that are special to you and help bring you into your body. The part about healing is that when an individual heals, she tends to turn around and start helping others to do the same. That's what I've experienced from the cancer survivors who have reached out to offer me their wisdom, their light, their love. Some of you are in this room, and I'm so very, very thankful for you. That kind of generosity and service is exactly what the doTERRA community is about. Starting right at the top, down to wholesale customers. We heal ourselves, and we help others to do the same. And the blessings go far beyond what we can see in front of us. You know, I used to think that doTERRA was an essential oils company with a very big heart. But I've come to realize that this is actually, doTERRA is an incredible humanitarian organization that happens to source the world's finest oils.